Well, hey there, and welcome to the EQPU podcast, where our heart is to equip you to grow and to become all that God has created you to be. We are here in the studio for episode number 15, and I am joined with none other than Pastor John.
Howdy.
How you doing?
Good.
And we've got a special guest with us today as well. Troy Johnson is joining us on the podcast today. Troy, thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
We're
Thanks
excited.
for having me.
Absolutely. We're excited to dive into our conversation today, and we're just gonna go ahead and jump right in. Troy, it's been really fun to kind of see everything unfold in your life and to see everything that God has done, and it's just been so evident over the last, I think we were just talking before this,
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. Like, it hasn't even been 2 full years, but God has just done so much in your life. We feel very, very fortunate to know you and very thankful for you, and just all that you and your family mean to us and to our church. And it's just been so fun to see all that God has done in your life. And I know that, for some people, if they're new to our church or if they don't really know you, they could look at you and think like, man, Troy's really got his stuff together. Like, they can see that, like, God's hand is evident in your life, the way you treat people, the way that you care for people, the way that you work hard and do all those things. It's like, man, like, Troy is really solid. But we were talking about before we started, it's like, it hasn't always been this way.
No.
So, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, kind of what your life looked like. Yeah, that journey, what your life looked like before Christ, and then maybe even how you have even found yourself in this place.
Yeah, so I've had, I was brought up in church,
Sure.
Lutheran, and we were confirmed, went to Sunday school, and after that we kind of quit, and once you start work out of high school, I graduated high school. Actually, I didn't even graduate high school. I got a GED, I went to college after with Dana when she was going to college and finished my high school, but then I went on the road, and that's what I've done my whole life, work on the road, and living with the demons on the road, and you're away from home and family, and you have your struggles, and it just was a long time coming before I decided to come back to where I knew I needed to be, and that had to be to God.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe talk a little bit about some of those struggles. Like, what were some of the biggest things that you dealt with, battled with, struggled with while on the road, or kind of in that time where you're working a lot and away from home and away from family?
I believe, isolation is probably one of the biggest. For me, it was being away from home and family, is not the easiest. I mean, it's a good lifestyle if you're single. It's good money. I mean, it's a good career, but to raise a family with kids is not. Dana and I made it work for years and years, and we've always made the best of it, but we've had our struggles. I dabbled with drinking and drugs, and, it kind of took a better part of my life for quite a while. And, I always made ends meet, or things worked out, but it's not, it caused a lot of issues over the years with Dana and the kids, and it was not just, you think you're doing the right thing, but yet you're not. You're doing it for all the right reasons, but yet your mind will play these tricks on you, and and now I realize that's the devil, sitting on my shoulder, and still to this day I still have issues, still have struggles.
Yeah.
Was there a tipping point in that journey where you're like, okay, this is enough? Or there's got to be something different or better?
Yeah, it was,
You don't have to be specific, but just,
well, it was in June of 2019.
okay.
I was working in Cincinnati, Ohio, and my addiction had got the best of me. And my wife came to Cincinnati, and she more or less said, "Troy, you need to come home and get some help, or we're not going to make it." And
Mhm.
Wow.
I was not about to throw 28 years of marriage away and my grandkid, my kids, and I got my 5th grandchild on the way.
Wow.
And, so I am so thankful that she did that. I mean, she said, Dana saved my life. She did.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't give her enough credit for what she does for me, but she knows it, and I'm not the best at always expressing that,
Yeah. That's so maybe talk a little bit about what that was like that. Cause I mean, you think about a moment like that where somebody more or less like it's like, hey, like this is a problem. It needs to change. And, we could see people could do one of two things. Either they make that decision to change, or they just, they run and they keep doing what they've been doing. So what was that like for you? Did you feel like, could you see it? Was it hard for you to hear? Was it, what was that like for you?
Well, it was hard to hear, of course. I mean, I argued with her, when she came, and I'm like, I gotta, I have this responsibility of all these crews that I'm running, and it's like, she's like, well, somebody else can do it.
Yeah.
And I finally, I realized I knew I had a problem. I knew I had a problem, but I always thought that I could do it on my own.
Yeah. Which I think that's probably one of the biggest lies that we deal with, whether it has to do with addiction or, I don't know, working with a team, or it's like, I got this. Like we're so quick.
Or anything in life where you can feel like independent, like I can carry this burden, I can carry this weight.
Yeah.
Right. And this whole life has just been a roller coaster. It's got its highs and its low. You're on a mountain 1 minute and you're in a valley the next. And it's like that pattern never changes until you want to do something to change it. It'll never change until you take the initiative and you finally realize that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
You brought up kind of struggling with addiction and stuff, and that was a big reason why you got to this place. Now, there's some people who maybe totally understand like what it's like to struggle or to wrestle with an addiction or to have an addiction, but there's some people that they don't realize it, or they don't know that they realize it. It's maybe something that's hidden,
or they haven't come to the realization that it's addiction.
Right. What would you say? Like, what's one thing that you maybe learned, or do you have any like caution to anybody that's maybe struggling with it, or anybody that could be and doesn't know it? Like, what's one thing that, like, looking back on that and your kind of your battles, your struggles with some of those addictions, what's one thing that you've kind of learned or walked away with from that?
So I think if you finally, like I said, you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? And for me to try and, share my experience, strength, and hope with others is that, I thought that I wasn't I always compared myself to somebody else, to some other addict. And it's like, well, I've never been that bad. Well, it doesn't matter, right? Because when you have the addiction, and it doesn't matter if it's sex, alcohol, drugs, gambling, eating, self-harm, it doesn't matter. It's an addiction. And what people don't understand is that nobody chooses to be an addict. It's your choice to put the chemical in your body,
Right.
that's your choice. But once you do that enough, and then it's not your choice anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't understand that, and a lot of people, have hard raps for drug addicts and alcoholics, and because what it makes them. And that's not the person, it's the chemical in them that's making them that way. And you get to a point where you just have no control over it without somebody interceding or you making that ultimate decision, turn your will and life over to the care of God as you understand him. That's step 3 in the program. And once you do that, it took me 3 years to do that.
Wow.
So, once you get to that point and you make the decision because you have no other choice.
Yeah.
So you're saying it took you 3 years to get to that point of turning yourself over to God?
Yes. To make that point, step 1 is admitting you are powerless and your life had become unmanageable, and then, but without the program is not a religious program. It's a spiritual program, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have spirit. You got to have hope. You have to have some way of believing that your life can get better. And for a lot of addicts, that's really hard, especially in in the positions that we get ourselves in. It's really hard to get out of sometimes.
Yeah.
Because
you're missing like that hope piece.
The hope piece. You have no hope. It's like there's nothing, you lose your last.
Going to be like this.
Yeah, you lose your last parent. You're in a bad situation, and then you lose a parent.
Yeah.
And then it's like now, it's like you just want to just self-medicate so you don't have to hurt and don't have them feelings and emotions to deal with.
Yeah.
And when you're in a good place, you're fine. But when you're in a dark place, the addictions are what make it all go away. It just masks it is all it does. And then when reality comes back, it's worse.
So in your journey of recovery, you discovered who God was in your life. You want to share a little bit about what that looked like and how that came about? How that made an impact.
Yeah, exactly.
As your journey continued.
So I think when it originally started was when I lost my mom. And she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and they gave her 6 months to a year to live, and she lived 4 weeks.
Wow.
And I was working out of town, and they called and said, you need to come home. And so I came home, and I laid on my mom's bed for the last 9 days of her life, and it was tough. Yeah. And that's when I really did some soul searching and just realize what's important in life. And and then she passed away in August, and then 6 months later I was diagnosed with rectal cancer after a colonoscopy. And then things really it's like it's awful that it takes such drastic things to happen before somebody realizes. It takes that for a lot of people to decide to want to change their life. And they know, and you get to a point when you just know that your will's it's not gotten you anywhere. My way is not working anymore, and I need help, And
so when you were diagnosed with cancer, you already had put your faith in God, and you were already following him. But the event with your mom kind of pushed you in that direction?
It did. And then once I got diagnosed with cancer, what really, I think when it happened for me, I was already diagnosed with cancer, and I just got my port put in for chemo. And I'm not even sure if I even had one treatment. I think I had one treatment of chemo, and a friend of mine asked to haul a car down to Texas, and reluctantly, my wife did not want me to, but I needed to get out of town, and it was going to take me like 3 or 4 days. And I went down, and on the way down there, I had my windows down. I was listening. I have a playlist on my phone of just worship music, and I was listening to that, and then all of a sudden it was like, I don't know. I can't explain it, but it was like God was sitting in the seat next to me.
Yeah.
And I started having a conversation with him, and it was a lot of crying by myself.
Yeah.
That was my dog and I,
Diesel.
Yeah, Diesel.
Did your dog cry?
No, but he gets sad when I'm sad. And after that trip, I had such a terrible pain in my neck. And I come home and I went to the chiropractor, and he says, I am not touching you. And he says, you need to go to the doctor immediately. Well, needless to say, my port had come out and it kinked, and I had my whole jugular vein was a blood clot for days while I'm driving myself to Texas and back. And so it was kind of a eye opener, that I couldn't have, there's a chance I could have not made it back if something were to happen, and I was unaware of it.
Right.
And Dana, like I said previously, Dana didn't think it was a good idea that I go by myself anyways.
Yeah.
But but in that experience, God showed himself real to you.
Yeah. And when I came back, when I got home, Dana came out in the garage, and I broke down in tears thinking that I was like going AWOL. Like, I mean, like I am losing my mind. Like, I'm sitting here talking to God, and I'm thinking things and saying things that would not come out of my mouth. It was not me speaking.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then I came and talked to you here one day, and you assured me that I was not going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that conversation like? Do you guys remember that very much?
I remember you coming and telling me and talking to me about your trip to Texas and stuff, and you had never experienced anything like that before, and I was just assuring you that that's how God reveals himself, or that's a way God reveals himself to us. He wanted you to know that he is with you, and even though you've gone through some pretty horrific experiences in your life, he's still there with you. And I think you came out of that understanding, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And but yeah.
And I think I've realized in the past too, there's been a lot of things that have happened in my life, and I am one that I do not believe in coincidences.
Yeah.
I believe that everything happens for a reason. And I've had some things, without going into details, in the past that only God could explain.
Sure.
Why I'm even still here.
Sure. Yeah.
And they seem like coincidences, but it's not coincidences in the things that have happened to me personally.
And you're probably talking about experiences that you had like before you were ever even like fully following Jesus, right? Like just times where you just see his hand on your life. Yeah, which is crazy to think about.
Maybe
that.
In the moment you didn't see his hand, but now that you look back, you're like, that can only be explained.
I look back, and that's the only way that can explain how some of these have happened, because it is so, there's no other way to explain it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Which I think is just, it's so cool to think about, because I think so many people, specifically people that aren't following Jesus, it's like, well, like, God can't be real. It doesn't seem like he's around. And maybe there was even moments where you felt that way, prior to making that decision to follow Jesus. But like, it's like now looking back on it, it's like God's there. He's taking care of us, and he's trying to reveal himself and show himself to us. It's just like, do we see it that way?
We have to open our eyes to see it.
Yeah. No, I think that's good.
So I think you guys started coming to church here in early 2022 or late 2021.
Yeah, I think it was late 2021.
Okay. And then we started talking about, every year we do a baptism service in August, and we started talking about being baptized, and talk a little, and then you got baptized in August of 2022, and talk a little bit about why. It's like most of us probably were baptized as a baby. And I don't remember if you were or not, but talk a little bit about what brought you to that point, and then, share a little bit about that experience and what that meant to you and maybe even your, Dana, who also was baptized along with you that Sunday?
Yeah. So I was baptized. My brother and I and my sister were all baptized and were confirmed, but that was pretty much the end of our, so, and when I figured out, baptism, when I was baptized, that wasn't my choice.
Yeah.
I was too young. I mean, I didn't know. Yeah, it didn't.
Right.
It didn't have a meaning to me then. And when I heard being baptized means you're born again, I wanted that to happen. I mean, I needed that to happen, and I've been wanting that to happen, and that's just one way to profess myself that I need to do this, and I want to do this.
Your public confession of Christ and your need for Him.
And I mean, it doesn't make me a perfect person. I mean, I'm still a sinner, and but I'm well aware of when I do it now, and I know how to correct it and try not to. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, and I think that's just such a. I think one of the things that holds people back when it comes to their relationship with God is like this feeling or this pressure that we put on ourselves to be perfect. And it's like when we come to a place where we realize like, hey, I'm never going to be perfect. I'm never going to have it all figured out on this side of heaven. It's like, but I can continue to get better. I can continue to grow in my relationship with God. I can continue to become more like Him. Like, when we can really see that and know that and understand that, like, hey, I don't have to be perfect. I want to be more like Jesus, but I know I can't be perfect. I think that like brings freedom to our lives. Like, hey, I am who I am in a sense, not to say that there aren't things that need to change, because we all have things that need to change.
Well, I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
When you're in Christ,
right,
there's things that need to be changed. So you work at changing those things. You ask for God's strength to change those things. But when you're outside of Christ, it's like Isaac said, I am who I am. Yeah. You kind of don't care because you have this attitude, well, that's just me. That's my personality. Yeah. But when you put your faith in Christ, you're like, okay, maybe I need to not be so sarcastic or brass or
I wore the wrong shirt. I should have wore my love language is sarcasm.
I didn't get the memo.
I have that shirt too, but
because that is, I mean, when you say that's who I am, I mean, that is who I am.
I mean, that is who you are, but that there's some softening of edges and smoothing of
there's
things.
Times and places for it. There's times and places for it not to be. I mean, you still have to enjoy life and have fun, but you have to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's probably individuals, and we don't have to name any names, but that probably knew Troy from years ago and maybe now know Troy today, and there's a drastic difference.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is. It's a huge difference, and it's still not perfect by any means.
No, none of us.
But
are
perfect. I mean, I do have people on a daily basis that'll tell me that they see changes in me, and that is and that's what makes me want to grow more.
It's
it is encouragement, and I'm not I'm not the smartest guy, I'm not the dumbest guy, but I'm just average, I'm not skilled in anything except,
you're skilled.
Well, I mean, in, equipment running, I'm very skilled. I mean, I have skills, but I'm just a simple, basic person that just wants to be happy in life, and finally realized, I wish I would have realized what I have now long before I did, but I mean, I don't regret my past. I mean, it's made me who I am.
It's kind of led you to where you are today.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm comfortable where I'm at today.
Yeah. I think it's cool too. Like, I know some people are like afraid of what others might think of them. Like, oh, you've changed, like that kind of thing. Like some people are like terrified of that. Like they don't want that. But I think that's one of the coolest things. I mean, scripture is clear. Like if anybody is in Christ, like he's a new creation. The old is gone, the new has come. And
Yeah.
so it's just seeing that, and then having other people notice, like, hey, there's something different, is just evidence and should be encouragement for you that, like,
Right.
hey, like God is actively working in my life.
Yeah,
He's
that's proof
changing me.
If God can change me, he can change anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, another real big part of my thinking was when I was going through chemo and radiation, I would go sit with Gary Settlebauer
Mm.
on, a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from him as far as,
How to look at adversity and still
how
have faith.
to, deal with that adversity that he was, that we were dealing with, and
Right.
and being able to stay positive and strong through that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was uplifting for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he touched a lot of lives.
Yeah. I want to just kind of circle back a little bit too, because obviously you've talked about some pretty serious things, and a lot of people, when it comes to life, they could look at their life and be like, man, like, I've been through so many hard things. I've had so much happen. Like, how on earth, like, could God be real? How on earth could God let this happen? Like, as you look back and you remember some of these hard things that you've walked through, how has this kind of shaped or changed your view of God? Were there ever any moments where you were upset with him, or how did you kind of work through some of these events, some of these situations that you've had?
Well, I can honestly say, when I lost my Uncle Wayne to a suicide, and my mom passing away, I can definitely say that I might have been mad at God for, it's like, why, why? And I think everybody probably asks that question to themselves, wherever you are in your spirituality, or,
Yeah.
I think everybody might just say why once in a while.
Right.
And I don't know that for sure, but for me, I did. I don't anymore, because I now realize that God has a will for all of us, and he has a purpose for all of us. And I don't know if, like, losing my mom was so hard for us kids. And, but, I think my brother completely 180'd his life in this last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it has a lot to do with losing our mom and wanting to do the right things and have a relationship with my dad that hasn't always been there. And, it's like, so I think, I don't know if God did that for that purpose. I don't know, but I'm okay with that now, because out of everything bad, something good always comes out of it, I think, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
it does.
It seems like, the worst sometimes brings the best out of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Romans 8:28 says that God works all things for good according to those who love him and are called to his purpose. And it's like, I think a lot of people want to pull that verse, and it's like, a bad thing happens and it's like, oh, well, like, I thought that God only brings good things. And it's not so much that bad things don't happen to us. It's that God has the power and the ability to take these bad things that happen and bring some good from that. So,
Right.
Like with the passing of your mom, it's like, it's obviously not really, like, it's never a good thing to lose somebody.
No.
But if you can look at that and say, man, like, that was bad, but God used that to change my brother's life, and that's a good thing. And I think that's the beauty of God and just the way that he works. And it's just amazing to just see him. It's like and the biggest thing is that we have to trust him and we have to follow him. And so for you to, to see the changes in your brother,
Right.
yes, the passing of your mom played a part in that, but so did your decision to follow Jesus, and so did your decision to live out your faith, and so did your decision to be an example to your brother and to show him what it looks like to follow Jesus. And so as you trusted God, as you followed him, he took this bad thing and he brought something good out of it, which I think is so cool. And it's just an encouragement, like, you know, for anybody that's going through a difficult time right now or struggling. It's like, it might be hard. And that's, you know, I think sometimes people want to just say like, oh, well, God has a plan, and just kind of like put a blanket on it and just like hope that eases the pain. And it's like, it's hard. And saying that God has a plan doesn't take away that pain.
No.
But then when you know that, hey, this is hard, this sucks, but I'm going to trust God anyways. And I'm going to know that God is so good. And as I trust him, as I follow him, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think that he can bring something good out of this.
Right. That's where I've been like the last 2 years, really going through my cancer. And I'm, you know, I mean, I had, if anything was going to go wrong, it did. You know, I had many complications and multiple surgeries, and it's like, why? You know, I keep questioning God. It's like, what are you testing me? Why you keep testing me? I mean, what more do I need? You know, but I finally got to that point where, well, you got me through that, you'll get me through this. And that's where I just learned to trust. And I don't have like any worries anymore. I get up where I'm at in my life now. I get up every day not really knowing what it's going to bring, but I'm okay with whatever it brings. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. I think just being able to trust and being able to remember like the ways and the things that God, like you said, like God has taken care of me before, he's going to take care of me again. Yeah. I think a lot of Christians suffer with short-term memory loss, not literally, but it's like we're so quick to forget what God did for us 10 minutes ago. Something bad happens and it's like, what the heck's going on? And it's like, don't you remember? Like God just took care of you. You were going through something hard and God brought you through it. So you can know that he's going to do the same. It might look different, but I think that perspective is so good. So it's cool to hear you talk about that.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, like in the morning, like this morning, I usually get up and take my brother and we go out by Wazee. And this morning, you know, we were a little late and the sun was already up and we come around the corner and here's 14 elk all on the side of this huge hill out of Wazee with the sun on them, you know, southern exposure. And it's just, I mean, you're in God's creation. And I mean, that's how I start my day. That is how I start my day every day.
Yeah.
Because I can. I'm fortunate. I mean, I'm very blessed to be where I'm at now today, considering everything that we've been through. I mean, I can't feel any more blessed than I feel today.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so cool to hear you talk about it and to just see you. I mean, it's evident that God's hand is on your life. And I mean, we see it, other people see it, and it's just cool to hear. And I think whether you realize it or not, you're a big encouragement and a great example to so many people. I don't know, PJ, if you've got any thoughts that are rolling around in your mind or anything that's sparked.
No, it's just been cool to watch. You know, I didn't know you real well before, you know, you started coming here. Maybe heard some stories, but it's just kind of cool to see how you've progressed in your journey and your faith and your hunger and stuff. And, you know, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about, you know, one of the things that you came to talk to me before your cancer diagnosis was about doing something, you know, here at the church in regards to Celebrate Recovery and wanting to start that. And I told you that I was like floored that you mentioned that, because it was something that I had been praying about prior to that. And you started talking about it and you were filled with excitement. And then I think it was moments after that you got diagnosed with cancer and that kind of whole thing got put on hold.
Right.
And it was, and I mean, I'm not, you know, blaming the enemy or anything like that, but it's almost like you were hungry to do something like this and then your cancer hit you. Well, now I'm not saying you're past your cancer, but it's in remission and you're, you know, manageable. And
Yep.
talk a little bit about, if you want, that experience and what led you, why were you interested, or why is it your passion to help others going through addictions?
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, I've kind of known, I think I've known that that's what God's plan has been for me for a long time. But I wasn't sure if I was ready to do it yet.
Yeah.
And, now that I'm through with all my treatments and I'm cancer free, and I'm back to working mode, I guess, to where I can make the commitment and put the time in, because it is a time consuming. I mean, it's a job. It's pretty much a full-time job if I want to do what I think God's calling for me, and that is to be of service and help other recovering addicts and anybody of any need, just to be of service and help our community. And the Celebrate Recovery program is, I know it will help a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think every person in the congregation knows somebody that is dealing with
some sort of addiction,
an addiction, or some sort of a demon, or some sort of tribulation that they are trying to get through.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, it is what I've wanted to do for years, and now I have the time and the resources to do it. So
yeah,
I'm grateful for that. And it Gordy Days is a big part of my life too. And last week, one day we were talking, and I told him that, I was finally to the spot financially and health-wise to where I could finally go ahead and start making these commitments and doing these things I want to. And then I didn't think about it, but he's like, well, let's pray to God and thank God for answering your prayers and giving you what you needed to do this. And sometimes my brain doesn't work quite where I don't realize that it's a gift from God.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And until somebody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm seeing that the more it's, this has been a long journey, and this journey will never be over. I'll keep growing, and I'll keep learning. But it was just, it's things like that people point out that make you really think. And, and I mean, there's so many people in this congregation that have put their hands on me and prayed for me.
Yeah.
And it is just unbelievable what the power of prayer will do for somebody.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If somebody would have told you, 5 years ago that you were going to be starting a Celebrate Recovery and helping other people, would you have believed them?
Probably not. I mean, I've always known I've had it in me to, I've always been that type of person that is willing to help and want to help people. But prior to this, no, I would have never thought that I would be trying to get one going and being part of such a important thing in the community.
Yeah. Yeah. So just a quick little plug for that. If you're interested, I know Troy's looking for some help as well. So you can reach out to Troy, talk to us. We'll get you connected with Troy if you're interested in helping with that. But I think, we talked a little bit earlier about God working things out and using them for his good, even some of these bad things. And I think it's cool that even with this Celebrate Recovery, it's because of your past experiences, because of the things that you've dealt with, you're at this place now. And a lot of people could look at this of man, why did all these things happen to me? Why did I have to struggle with that? Why did I have to wrestle with that? Why did it have to get to the point where my wife sat me down and was like, hey, this needs to change, right?
Right.
Some people could look at it like that. But now it's cool because maybe some of those things didn't have to happen, so to speak, but now God is using those things that happened in your life to make a difference in the lives of other people. And I think that's really, really cool. If there's anybody listening that's maybe they're frustrated about something bad that's happened to them, or I don't know, maybe you're wrestling, or you've struggled with something in the past that maybe you feel shame from. Know that it's like God can use those things if we give them to him and if we let him. And so it's just so cool to see you like giving these things to God and allowing him to work and move and use you in those to make a difference for other people.
Well, I think, I finally learned that, I can put all the pain I've had to a purpose now and use it for a positive point for other people. Your hurts and habits don't all have to be, you can turn them around and make them a positive.
Yeah. PJ, as we wrap up, you got anything else?
No, I'm thankful for you and Dana, in your involvement and your friendship and neighbor.
Yeah.
And just, excited to see what God has done in and through your lives and what he's going to continue to do.
Yeah.
It's a real encouragement. You're gung ho around here and, you're asking, what can I do? How can I help? And sometimes I have to just slow you down because you can go 100 miles an hour, but that's exciting to see. And it's not just because it's your personality, it's just because your focus has shifted.
Yeah.
Right. And you're seeing things, how you can be a blessing and a help to others.
Yeah. I think one other thing too is trying to find that balance. Balance for an addict is really hard.
Yeah.
It's balance is, I think, hard for anybody to actually, to get that to where I'm not a person that likes routine.
Sure.
I don't want to have to get up and brush my teeth at 9:30 every day. If I want to brush my teeth at 11:30, I'll brush them at 11:30, right? But to not, it's just nice to be able to do what you want when you want and be able to help in any way. If somebody needs something, call, and you can just drop what you're doing and go do it.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed that I'm in the situation I'm in now to where I can actually put forth my time to do what I think I'm meant to do.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Troy, you got anything else? Anything that maybe any encouragement or any words of wisdom that you would want to leave with anybody that's listening? Maybe somebody that's struggling with addiction, or maybe somebody that knows somebody that's struggling with addiction. Is there anything that you'd say to them?
Yeah. Well, I can guarantee that if you're in a hard spot and you think that there's no way out, there is. And I know for personal experience from other people that I've seen grow that it doesn't take long to see the gifts return. If you really looking for it, my brother's a perfect example. He can't believe the things when he started praying in the morning.
Yeah.
He's like, it's unbelievable how many of my prayers have been answered just like that. And that doesn't happen for everybody.
Right.
Everybody's different. Everybody, but it was just, I seen it firsthand I seen it with my own eyes because I've been with him every day this winter. And it's just been remarkable. And there's no other explanation for it. Right.
Yeah.
It's just, it's mind blowing to see the change and transformation. And I didn't see it myself because it's taken so long. Sure. It's like watching your granddaughter grow up. The parents don't see her grow, but when you see her once a week, you see her a difference.
Well, it's like you said, sometimes it's easier to see the change and transformation in others than it is in your own
right.
life.
Yeah.
But you know it's the same. If you're seeing it, you've been there too.
Yeah.
So that's what's really cool about it. And it's just it's just fun. Every day I get up with a little more will and a little more want to do what I'm doing now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, and that's just, I think, like today, I think the Holy Spirit was in me with a friend this morning. He needed a ride to his PO, and I took him there. And then I took him down for drug court, and I took him for his UA, and then I took him up to get a Walmart or a phone card.
Yeah.
And, it's just, it's what people need that don't have the help, that are looking to better themselves and change their life.
Yeah.
It took me, and so many people helped me through it, and now it's just my time to pass it forward.
Yeah. That's cool.
I think that's
really
awesome.
cool.
And I think the cool thing about it is, like, you know, you're willing, and you're saying, God, here I am, I'm available, use me, and you're making a difference in our church, in the lives of people outside of our church. And, you know, we're just so excited to see what God continues to do in and through you. And, to anybody that's listening, that's maybe struggling or frustrated, I think, like, you're a perfect example. Like, there's hope. Like, God can do anything. Like, he can bring,
exactly.
he, like you already talked about, he can bring purpose to our pain. We don't always necessarily know why or how, or, you know, why something happened the way that it did. And we may never know exactly. But what we do know is that there is someone who loves and cares about each of us, who can bring purpose to some of these areas that maybe feel purposeless. And again, I think you're a perfect example of that. And so we really appreciate you, Troy, and just are grateful for you, grateful for your story and all that God has done. And like I said, we're just excited to continue to see God work and move in and through you. So either of you got anything else, last minute words before we sign off?
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
All right. Well, Troy, thank you so much for being
welcome.
on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we hope that if you were listening today, that you were encouraged. I know that you will be if you've got this far. And one thing that we would just ask of you is if you haven't subscribed to our show, like it, comment, rate it. And the other thing that we would ask is share it with a friend. Maybe you know somebody who has battled with difficult things that have happened, have dealt with loss, have gone through addiction, and maybe are experiencing hard things right now. Maybe you could share this podcast with them, and that could be an encouragement to them. So we would love it if you would take a moment to do that, to share it, to spread the word, because we don't do this just because we want to sit around and hear ourselves talk. We do this to help people. And so, if you would do that, we would appreciate it. But again, we want to say thank you so much for joining us on the EQPU podcast, where our heart and our desire is to equip you to grow and to become all that God has created you to be. We will see you on the next episode.
Peace out.